Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ video right here on NoDQ.com as well as the YouTube channel. We have WWE Extreme Rules this coming Sunday night. I will be doing live play-by-play coverage. You can also leave a comment on the play-by-play page with your thoughts, any questions you have. I will try to interact with as many of you as possible. Head over to NoDQ.com, leave your thoughts. But for now, got your questions from twitter.com/AaronRift using the hashtag RoadToNoDQ1000. Let's get started today. First one comes from Alexander. Hey Aaron, with the Kurt Angle text message and the Enzo attack, is this a sign that WWE are finally focusing on a weekly slow build? I would not bet on it. I think that WWE will somehow manage to panic and rush these storylines. I'm hopeful that it is the beginning of a slow build and week to week a little bit more of the storyline is advanced. I would hope that's the case, but my gut feeling is WWE will blow through these storylines in a couple of weeks and then they will run out of ideas again and we'll be right back to square one. People do seem to be a little bit intrigued by this Kurt Angle storyline, although, as I mentioned in the last video, if it's just leading to Stephanie coming back and Angle's not going to wrestle, then I'm not really looking forward to the storyline. As far as Enzo and Cass goes, this is an interesting storyline. I've said it before, I think it's too soon to break up Enzo and Cass. I think that they should have had a run with the tag team titles, and I think WWE has booked Enzo poorly in recent months. But some people might look at it as the team has run its course and there's only so long that they can go out there and do that shtick with Enzo's promo and Big Cass coming out there and doing the 7-foot-tall thing. You know, eventually you got to change it up and do something different. So I'm intrigued by it. We'll see where it goes, if it in fact leads to an Enzo and Cass breakup. And I got this question here from Ryan. Doesn't it seem convenient that Cass confronted Graves for no real reason and Enzo found laid out right after? It's definitely getting people talking. Did Big Cass do this? Did Corey Graves have something to do with this? I think somebody mentioned, and I posted this on NoDQ, that Graves had mentioned the previous week that he wanted to shake the hand of the guy that attacked Enzo, and then this past week on Raw we saw Cass and Graves shake hands, and that's got a lot of people wondering if that was a little bit of a hint as to what's going on in this storyline. It obviously seems like it's going to be something other than the revival, because that's too obvious. Will we see a Big Cass heel turn? Will we see Corey Graves get involved and possibly be a heel manager? That's something that I've seen people throw around as a possible idea. Maybe Graves will be involved in the Stephanie storyline. So I will say that I think that this past week on Raw, at least we got some sort of storylines going on now, finally, after seemingly months of nothing really going on in WWE. They're finally doing some actual storylines and getting people to speculate and wonder what's going to happen. My fear is that the storylines will just end up very disappointing and will have no real solid payoff. This happens a lot in WWE. They start off strong with storylines and then it fades away and WWE drops the ball and the storyline ends up being a disappointment. We'll see what happens here. We'll see if WWE can capitalize on the interest from fans and see if they can build on this and actually drag it out for several months and keep it interesting and have a really strong payoff in the end to get fans further invested and maybe looking at Raw as a must-see show again. And on that topic about Raw being a must-see show, from Rico, what do you think is needed for Raw to get out of this creative slump? Better writers, let talent be more creative, and so forth. Definitely a combination of everything. The 3 hours is a problem, and I'll get to that in a few minutes here. The writing is very weak. there aren't much in the way of compelling storylines. There's no real reason to tune into Raw every week. Raw used to be a must-see show where if you missed a Raw, you might just miss something really important. And it doesn't feel like that anymore. It feels like if you miss Raw, it's no big deal. All you need to do these days is watch the pay-per-views and maybe watch the Raw clips on YouTube, and you'll be able to keep up with what's going on. The storylines are not very complex, there's not much to them, and the characters are not very interesting, and everything is very overly scripted. And WWE with Raw and SmackDown, I've talked about this in recent weeks, the shows follow a formula. Every week it seems like it's the same pattern. Guys come out, cut a promo, sometimes you have 4 or 5 guys coming out one after another with the microphone. It gets turned into a tag team match or some other match that's made right after the segment, and it just it repeats itself. One segment after another, it's the same thing, the same formula, and it's getting very boring. Raw to me is a boring show, and SmackDown has been a better show because it's 2 hours, but I have to say in recent weeks, SmackDown has gone downhill in quality. So what do you do? I think it's really a combination of everything. Better writing, letting the characters have more creative freedom, the performers, and just making it a more compelling show. Putting the show together like it needs to be must-see. Like there's competition on the other channel, like there is Monday Nitro, and you gotta keep those viewers glued to the television set. And that's what I miss about Raw and SmackDown. That feeling that it's must-see and you have to watch. If you miss it, you're going to miss something big. This one comes from Jeffrey. Hey Aaron, first time asker. I enjoy watching your show. If Raw went back to 2 hours, would it help them, or is it too late? It would definitely help to a degree. Like I said, 3 hours is one of the problems. Raw is a 3-hour show and it's too much. The WWE product is oversaturated. That is definitely a problem, but even as a 2-hour show, I would be concerned with WWE still not having very compelling storylines and just going through the motions creatively and not doing new concepts and doing things to keep people invested in watching the shows. That's what I think is very important as well, not just the fact that Raw is too long. That is definitely one of the problems though. But it's probably not going to change. USA Network, even though the ratings are down, Raw still helps USA Network and helps out with the numbers. As long as the numbers are halfway decent, USA Network's not going to cut that 3rd hour. Even if WWE wants to cut that 3rd hour, with the money they're making from USA Network, it's unlikely to happen. So yeah, it does seem like it's too late now to go back to 2 hours. People would lose money. It would not be a financial benefit to do that at this stage of the game. This one comes from Sean T. Flick. Why does the entire SmackDown women's division get featured on a 2-hour show, but only a couple of Raw women on a 3-hour show? That's a great question. I think right now, because we have the women's Money in the Bank match, you have a match that involves 5 participants, and there's only like 6 or 7 women on SmackDown, so it's pretty much the entire roster in that Money in the Bank ladder match. With Raw, they're focusing on just one big match for the Extreme Rules pay-per-view with the women. You have Bayley versus Alexa Bliss in the kendo stick match, as the cat is digging in the litter box to ruin my video, to sabotage it. And you also have that Sasha Banks mixed tag team match. But yeah, beyond that, you have a lot of different people on Raw. Raw has a huge roster, not just the men and the women, but also the cruiserweight division. And as it is, people are struggling to get spots on Raw, and the show already has a ton of filler as it is. So yeah, it is a bit of a bad situation, but I think that if SmackDown was just focusing on 1 or 2 women's matches, singles matches, then you would have several of those women getting lost in the shuffle as well. This one comes from Michael. Hey Aaron, love the show. How many times will WWE repackage the colognes? They've had lots of chances. I'd be surprised if it happens again. I think the Colognes are pretty much at a certain level, and that's where they're going to stay. They're basically there to put over other teams, and that's going to be their role. The only way I could see the Colognes getting a renewed push is maybe if Carlito comes back and you form a big stable with those guys. I suppose maybe there would be a chance of getting fans to take the group seriously again, but beyond that, I doubt it, and I feel there's very little WWE can do to make those guys credible. Now, maybe if WWE decides to expand into Puerto Rico, they'll use that as an excuse to give them a renewed push. Who knows? I mean, the thing about Jinder Mahal, though, is that India's a huge-ass country. Puerto Rico, you know, they've already done as much, I think, that they can do in that country. India's an area they're really trying to open up into and see where they can go in terms of marketability and expanding business in that country. This one comes from Andre. Hey Aaron, do you think that Breezango are the most entertainment tag team since the New Day? I'm not sure if you're asking me about them being the most entertaining tag team or a tag team that is the most sports entertainment like. I'm not sure what you meant exactly with the wording of this question, but I will say that they are a comedy team. That is what they have been designed to be. How effective are they? I am not completely sold on them. I mean, I think it's good for them. I'm glad that they're getting this push, but I'm not completely sold on them as a comedy tag team. I think their segments are mildly amusing, but I would not say that they're at the level of the New Day in terms of being entertaining, but certainly they're designed to be, you know, a funny tag team and part of the comic relief for the shows. Will they end up becoming more successful in the long run? That remains to be seen, but I think that title shot they had at Backlash, that was pretty much it. They were just there because the Usos needed a team to feud with until the New Day came back. This one comes from Bob Hansen. Has Talking Smack lost something without Daniel Bryan? Seems like they walk on eggshells with Shane there. They're not walking on eggshells, that's just part of the act. Remember, Shane does not have any real power in WWE. He's a TV character. Same thing as Daniel Bryan. They're both just TV characters. But I do miss Daniel Bryan to a degree. I think Shane does a very solid job. But also, on the other hand, I think that Daniel Bryan and Shane basically have the same role, and it's not like you need both of them on the shows at the same time. So, you know, one week you can have Shane McMahon, one week you can have Daniel Bryan. It's nice to have Bryan around, though, but let the guy do his thing and spend time with his family. You know, he deserves it. And I think Shane's doing fine on SmackDown Live, and when Bryan's ready to return, he'll come back and resume his role as the GM or commissioner. No, Shane's the commissioner, Bryan's the GM, whatever. It's all the same. This one comes from Jared J. Smith. Hey Aaron, what is your favorite Austin versus Undertaker match? I like the fully loaded 99 match. I definitely liked the build-up for that match. I don't remember the match itself that well. I do remember the segment where they actually they did a contract signing before contract signings were a monthly thing, and they had Undertaker literally bust open Austin and literally sign Austin's name in blood. And I thought that was pretty cool. That was a nice little build-up for that pay-per-view. But I always liked the SummerSlam 98 match. I thought that was a really strong main event. I think it gets overshadowed by Triple H versus The Rock, but I think Austin and Undertaker had a really solid main event. It seemed like those guys could never really have an all-time great match because I think one of them, or sometimes both of them, were injured during that period when they were working with each other. I think SummerSlam, Undertaker might have been hurt. When they had that Buried Alive match, they were both hurt. I think Austin had like a really bad flu or something. And Austin was hurt again when they fought in 99. So there were a lot of different issues with injuries and the two of them being hurt. So we never really got like an all-time great Austin Undertaker match, in my opinion. You know, in a different period when both guys were 100% healthy, I think that they would have had one of the all-time great WWE matches. This one comes from Andre. Who do you believe has the bigger impact when they return, Stone Cold or The Rock? I think Stone Cold. I would definitely say The Rock, just for the fact that Austin doesn't wrestle. I mean, that alone, I go with The Rock. Austin can only do so many appearances and make a big impact. You know, he can come back and stun people, but when The Rock comes back, The Rock is legitimately one of the biggest actors in the world, one of the biggest movie stars in the world, and he can really move numbers when he appears on a WWE show. The Rock is a big deal. The Rock can bring in casual viewers to the product. Austin is not going to be doing that. Even if Austin came back for one more match, if Austin came out of retirement, I don't think Austin would be able to draw as much attention, mainstream attention, to WWE as The Rock would. The Rock is legitimately one of the biggest superstars in the world, not just in the realm of WWE, but in any aspect of entertainment. So you have to go with The Rock. I think for diehard wrestling fans, it would be Austin, but if we're talking about the entire world, it's got to be The Rock. That'll wrap it up for this edition of NoDQ Video. Make sure you head over to ProWrestlingTees.com if you would like to support NoDQ.com and pick up a NoDQ.com t-shirt. There's a link in the description box. And again, stay tuned to NoDQ.com this weekend for Extreme Rules coverage, and I will see you guys next time.